Well, what we see is a very different approach in contrast to earlier football diplomacy rounds. This time, the diplomatic focus is much more practical and much more specific. It's limited to two and only two issues: reopening the border, or more specifically, opening border crossing points, and then also the restoration of rail and road traffic, which is also related to the Azerbaijani connectivity. And the second specific objective, establishing diplomatic relations. As envisioned, the diplomatic relations will be from Tbilisi, Georgia. In other words, there will not be a opening of a Turkish embassy in Armenia per se. Initially, it will be an accredited Turkish ambassador sitting in Tbilisi, similar to some European countries. And I think this is much more practical and reasonable. The new elements of this, some are happening, some need to be addressed. What's happening is much more of a focus on regional economic development and trade between Armenia and the Kurdish east of Turkey, which is rather impoverished. Yerevan is the largest urban center east of Gaziantep. There is a comparative advantage regionally. The second element of this is actually meeting the need for Turkish national security, counterterrorism, where Turkey's response to the PKK, to the Kurdish insurgency, will be also a response about jobs and economic stability from an open border with Armenia. That's very important for also gaining constituents in Turkey from the so-called deep state, from the military and national security establishment. It's also something the Turkish foreign minister is greatly interested in, given his own experience and background. What needs to be done, I would argue, is something that needs to be done with Azerbaijan. We need to lift the cyber blockade. We need to lift the blockade of internet access between Armenia and Turkey, between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Any justification for this cyber blockade has long passed. And as important as people to people contact is, we also need to address the infrastructural blockades beyond just the closed border.